Guys, most people will spend the next 30 years of their lives working and still never build real wealth. Why is this? It is because most people spend their entire lives consuming instead of owning. They finance everything, or they owe everybody, or they buy a bunch of liabilities, and they never build enough productive assets or capital in their own financial lives. And if you want to become what we talk about all the time on this channel, financially stronger, say over the next decade or so, you need to own more and owe less. So I want to break down the 5 most important assets that every adult should own ASAP. Let us start with the first one. The first asset or piece of capital that everybody needs to acquire is simply high income skills. Now, let me be real with you, okay? If you make $60,000 a year, it is because you got $60,000 a year skills. And I hate to be blunt and be flat out, but we got to be honest with this thing right now. If you want to make more, you have to get the skills, that is capital, that actually pay more. Now look, it does not get a whole lot more complicated than that. You making $40,000 a year and you want to make $200,000 a year, go out and get the higher paying skills that earn you $200,000 a year. And honestly, this is probably the most overlooked form of capital in America right now, because your income, your ability to make income, is what is going to fund every other asset that I name on this list, right? Your earning power is your greatest wealth, building tool in the beginning to get started. And one of the biggest mistakes that people make is people want to go out and try to invest heavily before they have even increased their ability to earn more money. The first thing you want to do is develop some higher paying skills as soon as possible. And we know that as you get older, they get developed more and more. But in the beginning, you got to be striving for skills that do not pay you $40,000, but pay you $400,000. Listen, if you only make enough money right now to survive every month, it is going to become more and more difficult for you to build ownership over time in America. That is why high-paying skills matter. The first thing that is going to open the door to more for you in your life is your skills. What are high-income paying skills? What are they? These are specialized abilities that the job marketplace is going to pay big money for. If you come to the table with them, think about it like software development, sales, computer engineering, right? Can you excel at something like nowadays digital marketing? Do you have AI-related skills? Are you good at data analytics? Are you good at financial management, or the old school, right? Are you a doctor? Are you a lawyer? Are you an engineer? Do you have the skills that are going to pay you more money than you currently make right now? Do you have to go out and get those skills? Perhaps that is a good investment to go out and get the higher paying skills. And here is the kicker. Right now today, the beautiful thing is that the internet has dramatically lowered the barrier to entry to learning some of these valuable high-paying skills. You no longer have to have the expensive degree from a big-time university. You no longer have to end up in, incredible, massive student loan debt to get these higher-paying skills. You can literally learn valuable high-paying skills online for real. There's a bunch of platforms out there, including YouTube and other certifications that you can get, that have made learning high-paying skills way more accessible to all of us. Now, hear me carefully on this. Okay, I am not telling you to go out and learn 15 things at one time. That is where a lot of people mess up. Just pick a valuable skill and go deep. Master it. Spend 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day, every single day improving or getting better at or learning it, right? Because you got to think of skills like capital, okay? Your skills are going to increase your ability to generate more income, which when you start generating more income, that is going to allow you to build ownership in everything else. Even with higher income paying skills, if you have no financial margin in your life, one emergency can wipe out years of progress financially, which actually brings me to the second asset that every adult should have, and that is cash reserves. And really, I think this is one of the most underrated forms of financial strength for adults nowadays, because cash, let us be honest, has got a bad name recently, right? But here's the deal. Cash creates breathing room. I do not care what your favorite YouTuber or podcaster has said about cash, right? Cash creates peace and stability in your financial life. And a lot of people today are financially stressed out because they have very little cash. They have no cushion left over at the end of the month. They have money coming in that is $4,000 a month, and they got bills going out the door that is $4,000 a month, and people do not have no cushion. They do not have no flexibility. Look. One car breakdown, 2 tires on your car breakdown, and you are in financial stress, or one medical bill, right? Or you go to the doctor for something. They say it is going to be a $100 copay, and you panic because you have not got a $100 copay to pay it, or you get laid off from a job, right? When that happens and everything falls apart financially because of the surprise or emergency, that tells you that you do not have enough cash, and that is dangerous, right? This is why I always say on this channel, financial stability starts before you get to aggressively investing your money. I want you to aggressively invest money, but I want you to have a safety net first. So cash reserves are almost like psychological armor. What are cash reserves? Let us be clear. I am talking checking accounts. I am talking high-yield savings accounts. I am talking money market accounts. I am talking short-term CDs. I am talking physical green cash that you can get your hands on in a matter of 6 hours, right? This type of cash is an asset. It is capital, right? And it protects you from job loss, emergencies. Income goes way down, economic uncertainty happening all around you, unexpected expenses, right? It covers all that without forcing you to have to go dig into your long-term investments, or dig into your 401k, or dig into the equity in your home, right? And this is important. The cushion of cash protects the compounding growth of all the stuff that you got in your long-term investments that you want to keep growing and not touch, because you are less likely to touch all that stuff if you got cash. And hear me out. One reason a lot of people make emotional financial decisions is because they just do not have no cash reserves, and that means they have no breathing room, and that creates panic. So here's what I recommend to everybody. Keep your reserves, your cash reserves separate from your regular checking account. You do not want it so accessible that you get to it and pull from it when it is not an emergency. And then if you are trying to build it up, automatically transfer money from every time you get paid a paycheck into the cash reserves. So you got some safety net. And really, guys, this is where your real financial peace begins to happen. When you have this capital called cash, look, when you got $20,000, $30,000 in your emergency fund stash somewhere that you can get to, it changes you. I am telling you, it makes you feel a little different. Now, once you have built this stability of having this emergency cash, then you can begin to focus more heavily on ownership of assets, which brings us to investing. The third asset that every adult should own, in my opinion, is broad market index funds and ETFs. Now, when I say broad market, I am talking about a big slice of the market. Maybe it is the S&P 500, maybe it is QQQ, maybe it is the NASDAQ 100, but it is a big slice of the market, the stock market. Now, let me simplify this. Okay, these are the investments that allow you to own small pieces of typically hundreds of different companies, all at one time in a bucket called an ETF or index fund. Right? Instead of trying to, gamble on individual stocks and picking the hot stocks and knowing when to pick the hot stock and when to sell the down stock. You do not have to do all that. Broad-based index funds and ETFs covers you. It is nothing wrong with single stocks, do not get me wrong. But with index funds and ETFs, you are participating in the long-term growth of the overall economy itself, because you got 100, 200, 500, 1,000 different stocks in a bucket. And this is important psychologically for a lot of people. You got to shift from only working for money to owning productive capital in the stock market, which a lot of you do, right? But that is a major shift for some people. Historically, broad market investing has rewarded patience, discipline, and the big one, consistency more so than any type of emotional hype or trying to predict, right? And listen, too many people lose money because they constantly are reacting emotionally to what the headlines say about the stock market. One week you are hyped up and you are excited, and then the next week you are panicking, you are not sure. You do not have to do all that when you buy broad-based index funds and ETFs, right? But when you are getting hyped up all the time and you are emotionally involved, that is not investing, that is just emotional behavior. And you never want to be led by your emotions when you are dealing with money and assets, right? And this is why I say all the time, consistency matters more than trying to predict stuff. One reason I like broad-based index funds and ETFs is because they reduce the risk that comes with trying to constantly pick these individual winning stocks. That is hard. And so like 95% of my overall portfolio is broad-based index funds and ETFs because they are diverse. They are fairly simple, they totally remove emotion, and they are excellent for long-term compounding. Just saying, I want to own big chunks of the overall economy. And the beautiful thing about them is this. Most average people can start really small. You can open up an account at Fidelity, Charles Schwab, Vanguard, Robinhood in a matter of 5 or 6 or 8 minutes. And you can start plugging in $5 a week, and over time the compounding is going to start. It is going to start doing the heavy lifting for you. This is ownership of capital. If you are not participating in the stock market in broad-based index funds and ETFs, you are missing out. You want to literally own productive corporations across the economy, and that is how you do it. Now, broad-based index funds and ETFs are what we call paper assets. The next asset is ownership in physical assets. So the fourth asset that every adult should own ASAP is simply real estate. Real estate is what helps you build wealth for generations. Why? Because real estate is going to provide you with appreciation 99 times out of 100. The value of a piece of real estate is going to rise over time. It is also going to provide you with rental income if it is something you can rent out. It is going to provide you with inflation protection real estate. Here is one that people do not really think about when it comes to real estate. Real estate is a hedge against inflation. Why? Because when the price of everything goes up, so do the rents that you charge and collect. Whether it is good, bad, you do not like it, do you like it? It does not matter. That is how it works. Also with real estate, you get tax advantages and you get long-term equity growth, right? I could go on and on about the beauty of owning real estate because I have owned real estate, rental real estate for the last 26 years, bought my first piece of real estate in the year 2000. And from 2000 to 2005, I bought 6 pieces of rental property, owned them all for at least 10 years. Got rid of some, lost some, and still own 2 pieces of rental real estate today, single-family homes. Now when I say real estate, I want to preface this. I am not only talking about single-family homes, I am also talking about big apartment complexes is real estate. Duplexes, triplexes, land, REITs. There is all different forms of real estate that you can own, and I want you to understand this. You do not need to immediately buy some big old massive rental portfolio. You could start slow, start where you are, start in the neighborhood you are in or the neighborhoods that you are familiar with. Study the market carefully. Pay attention to rental demand in the area, rental prices in the area, population growth, taxes, insurance. Think about local trends that are happening, what is coming to the area, what just left the area, and then use tools at your disposal. Redfin, Zillow, I could go on and on. There is all different types of software platform out there to rent properties out and to manage your own properties, or there is management companies. There is so much about real estate that is good. Of course, it comes with its risk as well. But for the most part, real estate strengthens your balance sheet over time. And think about this too. If you do not want direct ownership of a physical piece of property, do not forget the options like REITs and Fundrise and fractional ownership and syndications. There is a lot to real estate, but ownership matters and real estate is one of the best things that you can own. But let me just share this one final asset class that gives people the highest level of ownership and control possible. And that is the 5th asset is simply business ownership, building and creating and producing a business for yourself. This is one of the most powerful forms of capital when you produce and create your own business because it gives you control. It gives you the ability to scale, right? Get bigger and bigger. It also gives you cash flow potential. And of course, there is a lot of tax advantages. There is leverage in ownership. Now listen, this does not mean that everybody needs to build a business. I am not saying everybody has to go out and try to build some billion-dollar company. That is not the point. What I am saying is everybody should strongly consider a well-organized and profitable side hustle that you can make money at because it adds to your streams of income. I do not care if it is consulting. I do not care if it is something online selling digital products. I do not care if it is a service business, catering or whatever you do, fixing cars. Because here's the deal. A lot of your most successful businesses that we see today, they started really, really small. One of the smartest ways to start is by using the high-income skills that we talked about earlier to solve real-world problems for people. Maybe not for a business or a job, but for yourself, so you can have some freedom, right? Because when you start solving problems for people, you become more valuable to people in other people's lives, and I am telling you, people are willing to pay you to do that, to bring value to their lives, and whatever you may do now. You do not have to start with a big old business plan, and you do not have to raise $100,000 in crowdfunding and all that stuff you oftentimes see on the internet. You do not have to do any of that, right? Just start small, try to be profitable, try to gain customers, try to be able to network and get to know people and get to know areas and markets where your services or what you provide are going to add value to people's lives. You do not have to go out if you start a business, you do not have to go out and immediately overspend on office space, branding, and marketing inventory, right? Unnecessary overhead expenses, do not do all that. That is where a lot of people fail early when it comes to business. Build slow, build intelligently, build with profitability in mind. Look, if you want to formalize things, okay, sure, be my guest. Create an LLC, right? File taxes as an S-Corp. Core, learn some of the basics of building this particular business in whatever industry or sector or market that you are in. And then understand and manage risk. But the key is to just start a business. That is capital. That is ownership. Business ownership gives you one of the highest levels of control over your income and over ultimately of your financial future. And a business, think about like this. A business can eventually become a sellable asset that creates long-term upside, or it could be a piece of capital that you can ultimately sell on the market. Sell your brand. Listen, you do not need to build all 5 of these assets overnight. That is not what I am saying here. But think about it like this. If you want to build real wealth, you need to become intentional about the notion of ownership assets capital. So you need to go out and get these 5 assets as soon as possible. Again, high-income skills, cash broad-based index funds and ETFs, real estate, and business ownership. Remember, ownership creates options, capital creates flexibility, assets create leverage, and they all create stability and long-term wealth for you and perhaps the people that come after you, right? Generational wealth. Look, if you want to become financially stronger, you have to own more and owe less. Let me know in the comments below which of these 5 assets that you already own and which ones are you working towards next. Let me know in the comments below, and if you want to help building your financial structure, your budgeting, your investing, your long-term plan, check out the first link in the description below for our 4-step financial reset. As always, the best person who is going to take care of that old you is the young. You stay boring, stay patient. Peace.